Welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We're doing this a little out of order, so I wanted to warm it up quasi. That's not enough to warm it up, but it'll at least start. This is a Homelite XL. Bill sent this over, and before I get into it too deep, I want to show something incredibly smart that he did. When that old sticker started coming off, he got a new label made just to put on there so that he'd have his serial number and UT down the road. Super smart. These were famous for coming off. If yours does, put that there. Do something like that. That way you got it recorded. Anyway, I have an 86-ish Homelite XL. It has served me well, but not working well these days. Followed all your videos, but still have problems. Mainly I will get it working. After a half hour or so of use, it will just shut down and not want to restart. Or I will shut it off and same issue. Or it will run out of gas and same issue. It may sputter but not start. I do have spark when this happens. I have a Zama carb on it. Many years ago I rebuilt the carb the first time of many times, and do question if I mixed up the jets, but I've switched them back and forth many times and still issues. I don't know if these are different or not. Obviously they're the same length, but typically a high-speed jet is going to taper to a point, or a high-speed needle will, and a low-speed will have steps on it, so I'll check that. Anyway, can I send it to you for repair? I think it would make a good video because I don't see Zama carb Homelites at all. Bought it brand new from my local farm store and would like to keep it going. Okay. Well, that's why I did that. I ran it because I wanted to see if it could reproduce what it's doing. Now, you can see I did some tuning to it, but I'm not going to just rely on that. That could be as much tuning it to my fuel as anything. So, thoughts that come to mind are a problem within the carb. Possibly the high-speed nozzle check valve could be an issue. But, I'll be honest, what's being described there sounds a whole lot like it's leaking past the fuel inlet needle and flooding itself out, especially after, it's been run for a while and it's warm. That's my guess. So, without further ado, let's see if we can reproduce that. Let's see if it starts properly this time. And I'm not going to give it any throttle. Well, I guess that kind of blows that theory just a little bit, because it started just fine for me there, and I don't think I've changed the tuning that much. So, I don't know. I'm just going to have to disassemble this thing and get into it. I think... Why am I doing that? Don't be dumb. Gotta use my brain. I think I've got a disassembly video on a similar enough saw, but what the hell? I think I've got room in that camera memory to do a quick tear apart here for an XL. So this will be for an XL plastic body, single trigger, old style. That's what I'm calling it. Whether it is or not, in reality there's an older style of the plastic body, but the UT-10654 and 654s that were from the mid-80s up to, I think, about 1990. That's what this is. That's what it's modeled. So get your 4 starter screws out. Get your upper handle screw out. Boom! And apart she comes. Now, it's not lost on me that it could be a problem with the coil. I don't think so, but it could be. So I'm going to keep that in mind. This style, you've got to get the kill switch wire off the coil and up to here. We should be able to leave that in place. Let's get our air filter cover out. Duck bill looks like it's in good shape. Get our 4 engine screws out. I know some people make a big deal out of these things about how they're a pain in the ass to work on because you have to get them out of the case, but I'm demonstrating here just how easy and quick that is. Now, note, I did not take this handle cover off. I'm not going to risk breaking that, and Homelite designed it so that you don't have to. Keep everything hooked up and just start sliding it out of the case. And when you get to a certain point, you can just reach up there and disconnect it from the throttle, and you'll hook it up the exact opposite of that. You don't have to risk breaking any part of this. And out she is. Look at that. How easy is that to service? Okay. Get our air filter out of the way. Get our throttle rod out of the way. Get our air filter support out of the way. And boom. Okay. Those are pretty loose. That actually could create an air leak, especially at a higher temp. I don't see sawdust buildup to indicate that. That reed is in perfect condition. So we'll stick with the intent, which was to check out this Zama. Now you saw me, I gotta do this without making a mess. You always want to loosen your cap. You saw me do that. That way when you get your fuel hose off, it doesn't spurt all over the place. Especially in this case where it's hardened to the barb a little bit. You don't want to all of a sudden release pressure and spray yourself in the face. So even though you couldn't see me on camera do it, I looked away. Because I really don't want gas in my eyes. I can think of a lot better ways to spend my day than at the ER trying to get that dealt with. No, thank you. So if we don't find a problem here, I am going to wonder about that coil. Wow. Rock steady. Super rock steady. Oh, don't we love a mystery, folks? Wow. Dude, rock steady. If every carb was that good, that's interesting. That is very interesting. But let's take a peek in it and see what we see. This side. Not a thing wrong. That inlet screen is clean. At least it sure looks like it is. Oh yeah. That is good. There's nothing wrong on that side of the car. Generally, unless there's something goofy going on, when you clean a carb, you don't need to take the needles out. Unless there's dried fuel. And then it's worth cleaning them, but if there's any risk of mixing them up, it's almost better to do them one at a time. But I'm not at all convinced that's what's going on here. Okay, so that all looks good. Proper plastic disc is still here. Don't ever lose that. Those are not available anymore. Oh! Oh, I've got it! Bill, you're gonna crap when you see this. And this is so easy to do. This is so easy to do. See this? See how it's barely moving at all? The spring is folded under there. I don't think the camera is going to pick that up. But instead of being directly under this, it's all folded up and bunched up. So it was starving for fuel. That makes sense. When it gets warm, it's going to need more fuel. That's what it was. Oh, okay. I've released enough screw tension. Now you can see it. See what that damn spring did? These are hard to align. More than, oh, and that's what it was. It didn't actually, the spring is aligned with the arm properly, but it didn't drop down into its cavity right there. See that? It needs to drop down back here. So this inlet arm is designed for different types of curbs, several different Zamas. So the spring is going to actually align back where this disc drops through. I can understand 100% how this happened. Let's see if I can do this without taking... No. I can't do it. Just got to take this needle out. Come on, baby. I like to leave the screw in place and just slide the axle over. Alright. There's a place for this. Well, no, that doesn't line up. That's a bump stop. Okay. So let me put this together the way it's supposed to be, and I'll show you guys. I don't work on a super huge number of these curbs either. Even though guys don't like Zama in general, at least that's what I hear. I do. I think they're quite reliable. I have zero problems running a Zama carb. Alright, so like I say, this fuel inlet arm is designed for multiple different saws. So the spring drops down into its cavity and it rides right under here. So then when you slip this disc in place, that is holding the spring. Now we have full needle movement. See that? Let me turn that around since my big damn finger was in the way. Watch the arm. See how much movement we have now? Now she won't lean out. I can understand. I'm actually surprised it would cut under load. I'm a little bit surprised with what it was doing there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all put back together. I'll just double check a few things along the way, but I am 99% certain that that's what it is. Alright. She's back together. Still holding pressure like a champ. Just for grins. Let's check our coil. Perfect. You've got to get these electronic ignition coils to a higher RPM than you do a points ignition coil before you see the spark on this tester. That's just the nature of the beast. I'm very comfortable that we got what we came here to get. So, let's go ahead and start putting it back together. And again, we're going to demonstrate just how easy it is to work on one of these things. I get why they're daunting at first. But don't let them intimidate you. Zero reason to. I do want this to be tighter this time. About 3 hammers of the the rattle gun gets that right about to where it ought to be. Yeah, that's not going to leak a drop. So, these old rods, or the rods, you can see how one hoop is bent a little bit more than the other. That's correct. You want this one down on the carburetor. You go in from the top and set it like that. You want the opening to the back. That way you can slip it into that throttle trigger. Pays to get your air filter materials in place first before you slip it back in the case. And I'll deal with this after the fact, but I noticed that the bar adjuster is missing. But that's not critical for what we're doing at the moment. And you do want to get your fuel tank back on before slipping the engine in. Okay, that's tight. Let's see if we can make this sing a song. So you want your spark plug boot to start like that, and then you just kind of start working it in. Before you get too far, and I think I already did, get your throttle lined up to where literally it's just started right there, and it just slipped in. It is that simple. When I think about all of the throttle handles I risked breaking, and in a couple cases did break before I learned that trick, my goodness, it is no good. I'm going to do a little Loctite blue on these engine housing screws, because I have seen too many of them rattle about and then rattle out. And why, if you don't have to? Especially with the plastic housings, it's good practice with any of them. I like to get all 4 screws started before I tighten any one down. And you want to take your spark plug boot and make sure that it's nice and free and not jamming anything up. If you got alignment issues where these aren't lining up quite right, that's the first thing to check, is make sure that thing's not jamming you up. Okay. Now, I am going to put a little Loctite on this idle speed screw, because I found it super easy to turn, like almost easy enough that I think under normal conditions it might rattle around. And I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Once we set it, I want it to stay there. And if it hardens into the threads a little bit, that blue isn't going to be that bad, and that's okay. You want a little resistance. You don't want it to just flop around. So fish your electronic ignition kill switch wire back down, just like that. Okay. This is going together pretty quick, I think. If it doesn't slip down, just give it a pull and it will slip down. That one was playing quite nice with us. Hook this back up first. And if I can catch the old thread, that's the most ideal. I did not. There. There we go. I'm not putting any effort into this. That's how I know I caught the old thread. You can only cut so many in there before it strips out and is useless. Same is true on these. They make an oversized, and I stock them, the oversized screw for these, but again, you want to kind of not need those. So it takes but a second to get it lined up where you think it's right, twist backwards, and you kind of feel it drop. It just, I mean, I could actually see that one. It just dropped right into place. There. You can hear it. It's not always going to be that dramatic, but I'm glad it was for the video, just so that you got an idea of what it is you're looking at. Spark plug DJ7J, perfect. Plug looks fine. It's going back in. Okay. Let's see. My tuning's gonna be all jacked up again. At least that's my guess. Well, that's interesting. Where is my tuning? Huh, no it isn't. Should be picking up. Interesting. I think she's loading up. It's loading up a tiny bit at idle, an extended idle, but not bad. I'm comfortable that that spring was our issue. So, again, it'll sit around for a couple days. I'll do a cold start. If the tuning holds, we're going to declare it a victory and get it heading home.